All right, back here and home, within the last 90 minutes, county officials confirmed a man in southwest Portland died from hypothermia this past Sunday. That's all we know right now because no other details were released. Today, Multnomah County officials and Portland Mayor Keith Wilson announced 3 severe weather shelters will open at 7 o'clock tonight, so in just about 20 minutes. County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson declared a state of emergency due to potential overnight snow. The additional beds will be open at least through noon tomorrow. The Joint Office of Homeless Services has also been busy passing out what they call life safety supplies. Since January 10th, the agency has given outreach teams hand warmers, warm clothes, wool blankets, more than 4,000 tarps, nearly 850 tents and sleeping bags, and nearly 88,000 bottles of water to be distributed across the county. Now, I was at that news conference this afternoon, and afterwards, I asked Mayor Wilson about his plan to end unsheltered homelessness. Part of that plan is to radically change how the city removes homeless camps, since right now the removals often just push people from street to street. I asked him when we can expect to see changes.
I don't know. Again, we're going to rapidly set up a network of nighttime shelters, and I will tell you, when we have hundreds of empty beds at night, and we know we've got a place for somebody to go, that's when our outreach workers really have that ability to really start linking people with care. And then we will use the law, the 72-hour posting, the making sure that you can't just grab a tent and go 500 feet and reestablish a new encampment, because we have a bed for you. And so that community standard can be fully employed and used, and our laws will be in full effect. But the laws are there to help the homeless. They're not there to hurt them.
He says when it comes to shelters, to avoid the revolving door of people going inside at night and then back on the streets in the morning, because that's what's happening, the city will be opening day centers. I asked him today when those day centers will open, and he said they're focusing on July 1st, the start of the new budget and the new fiscal year. All right, while we're talking about shelter beds, this week Mayor Wilson announced he's tapping into the state's largest homeless shelter. That's Bybee Lakes Hope Center in North Portland. This comes after the owner of the building, Jordan Schnitzer, threatened to close the facility as soon as this spring if local leaders don't prioritize funding it. On the outskirts of North Portland sits Bybee Lakes Hope Center, a more than 300-bed shelter in the former but never used Wapato jail.
So we've been talking with the mayor from before the election.
This week, Mayor Keith Wilson announced a $1.5 million 17-month pilot program to open 50 beds at Bybee Lakes, the state's largest homeless shelter.
I wish you were telling me that there are 500.
Those 50 beds, available immediately, are meant for people who have completed or are in active opioid addiction treatment. People like Heidi.
I've been getting methadone here this time for a year and a half.
She's tried 6 times to get clean without shelter.
I just gave up. It's just too hard.
Fentanyl drugs are all over these streets, and it's tearing us up alive.
Being able to have the opportunity to have beds that are funded for being able to flow people into those types of beds is very important for us.
But it hasn't always been easy for those at Bybee Lakes to get the money needed to keep the shelter open. These 50 recovery beds are not to be confused with the 100 Bybee Lakes beds that Multnomah County decided to pay for last month after a shelter in Old Town shut down. An about-face from just 2 months ago when the county denied Bybee Lakes funding for those same 100 beds due to budget constraints. The county already pays for 175 other beds at Bybee Lakes.
It's been, I think, sort of a bit of a bumpy road, although I see some progress now.
Here's Jordan Schnitzer, a real estate developer and philanthropist. He leases the building to the group running Bybee Lakes.
I charge $1 a year. I have $7 million invested in this. So it's not like I'm making any money on this at all.
About a month ago, Schnitzer met with Mayor Wilson and threatened to shut down the shelter this spring if he didn't see long-term support.
And I said, you know, the lease comes up in April, and unless I see from the city and the county, Metro, whoever, a commitment to really want to fund this facility, then why keep it open?
As an organization, Bybee Lakes, it has had its challenges in making sure we have the funding to operate the building here. While Jordan Schnitzer is very generous with us in leasing us this building, it's expensive to run.
But unless I see support from the funding sources, because I'm paying a lot of taxes like everybody else, unless I see a commitment to use these beds, then why have it? We tear it down and build a warehouse. Do I want to do that? No.
Schnitzer says there is enough space at Bybee Lakes for up to 600 people, even land for a tiny home village. Here's what the mayor had to say about that earlier today.
At this point, that's not on our list. We've got experience setting up safe rest villages. They cost sometimes 5 to 10 times more. It takes 18 to 24 months to go through the siting, the development, the build, and open. We don't have time.
Last month, and part of Mayor Wilson's lofty $28 million goal of ending unsheltered homelessness by December 1st, he tapped the Salvation Army to rapidly open 200 emergency overnight shelter beds. We're told they're not full.
If there's empty beds in our community, we want them opened up to help care for community members immediately.
Now, as for that $1.5 million to operate the 50 recovery beds at Bybee Lakes, that money will come from a one-time grant funded by a national lawsuit against several companies that played a role in the opioid crisis.